Hello, welcome to Tarnished Bronze, where we do small and middle and large size stories from small and middle and large size creators. When you last heard from us, we were doing Invasion, which is the Keith Giffen recapitulation or rehash or crisis of cosmic DC. Now, what state of play are we in currently? Did we solve the alien invasion, Patrick?
Yeah, the alien invasion has been resolved, but not so quick because we have another episode. In the previous issue, the um, the the Dominators and the Dominion were outdone by Deadman. I mean, basically, he was a one-man show. The role that is usually reserved for Superman, where flies in and saves the day in like a page and a half. Deadman played that role where he manipulates the Dominators into surrendering. First, they blow up their alien alliance by revealing what their true intentions are, which was that there never was an alien alliance. Those other alien races were
It
just
was
their
a
patsies.
sham, a
Yeah,
sham.
total. I mean, and who would have thought? Who would have thought a villain double cross? Never. I've never heard of such a thing. So they were pissed off. That immediately causes the alien alliance to fall apart. Then he manipulates them again to surrender, and ta-da! Everything's over. The invasion of Earth is over, and Captain Atom gives an impassioned speech about world peace.
And
But
the more
meanwhile,
things change, the more they stay the same, Patrick. What's happened to Earth? Are we all living in a brotherhood of man after this?
in typical Keith Giffen cynicism style, as Captain Atom is giving the speech, we learn that Bialia is invading their neighboring country. So, which to me, that's quintessential Giffen, just tongue in cheek of elucidating the worst of human nature. So this is, it's perfect. I thought that was a perfect cherry on top of maybe a bit of a stale cake
So
for
this
issue two.
is the man who was pleased on his deathbed that he didn't have to go to New York Comic Con. So Keith Giffen,
I
rest in
mean,
peace. I can't get enough of Keith Giffen. So fantastic guy. This one is entitled World Without Heroes, and we've got Giffen and Mantlo doing the scripting and plotting, and Bart Sears is doing the art on this, and he's done all the covers so far. So, Patrick, firstly, are you familiar with the band Kiss?
wait, back that up. Who did the book one cover?
Bart Sears does all the covers for these. Yeah,
Really? Because
yeah.
I thought that was Giffen. The first cover is great. This third cover looks a little. The second one was. I kind of appreciated that the whole Iwo Jima shout out. The third one looks a little sad. I don't feel like the characters take up enough of the space. A little bit too much negative space, do you think? I can't draw. I'm not being a critic. I'm just saying for my eye.
Yeah, I find Bart Sears to draw everyone really impressively, except I just don't like his Superman. And because Superman is the feature here,
The capes are a little out of control too, but I'm okay with the stylization, but I just feel like maybe we should be zoomed in a little bit. I don't
yeah,
know. They look so
maybe that is the
small.
thing. So because his Green Lantern does look really good, his Wonder Woman does look really good. I really like his Hawkman. So I think
Yeah, I
maybe
like
it's a
yeah,
cape
I
thing. It
agree.
just it's a yeah.
But you were asking, sorry.
So anyway, are you familiar with Kiss, Patrick? And this is going to
I
be a
mean, Knights in Satan's service.
okay. So are you familiar with the
When I was a kid, parents were actually thinking that Kiss was converting their listeners to worship the devil. And I'm not kidding. I remember I have an older cousin, Bobby Lee, shout out. He's about 9 years older than me, and he was really into Kiss and like D&D and had like, yeah, he was probably the coolest person I knew when I was a really little kid. Didn't have too much time for me. I mean, he was almost 10 years older, but yeah, I was always fascinated by him and the things that he liked. So yeah.
so you're a walking Stranger Things, just that is your life basically, Patrick. So are you familiar with the Kiss album Music from the Elder, which featured songwriting from a middle-aged Lou Reed?
No.
You are missing out because
No, no, no.
the single from that album, co-write with that Lou Reed, might I add, the Walk on the Wild Side, Velvet Underground, Lou Reed is co-writing with Kiss. And the song that they have is called World Without Heroes, and it is all about a
Oh.
world without Superman. It is
No, no, I don't know this. And when you first said Lou Reed, in my mind, I thought Lou Graham. So sorry about that.
different. Yeah,
Sorry.
we're two people separated by a hell of a lot of different tastes, obviously. As we get into in Tarnished Bronze, I did think that the Todd McFarlane issues would be the nail in the coffin of Tarnished Bronze, but they weren't. It was the middle sagging issue that was the worry. We're on issue 3 now. My first Bart Sears issues were Hero Alliance, which is an innovation publishing thing from the 80s, where it's essentially a pastiche of the Justice League on their time off. Now, in 5 or 6 years later, Justice League International would start, and we would see that for real. But Bart Sears has the longest history in these kind of group ensemble casts, and maybe that's one for the channel later. Bart Sears also does a lot of Justice League for real. So
The traditional Justice League in
yeah,
their time off. And what's this called?
it's called Hero Alliance.
Oh no, I don't think I know that either.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know everything, but
it's really great. There's 18 issues out there, innovation publishing. I'm sure you can get it from all of those online outlets and dollar bins, and maybe a couple of them with some risque covers and maybe dozens of cents each. I don't know. But yeah, really, really good stuff. I always like Bart Sears, and like I said, I think his characters are really cool. His Superman's just a bit, maybe it's the coloring. I don't know. But why do we like Bart Sears, Patrick? Think
well,
think of something from this issue.
yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the detonation of the gene bomb that opens the issue is done in this really cool black and white effect, and I thought that was really great. Now, I have heard that the inker was hospitalized after doing these pages with Epstein-Barr. Now, I don't know if that's just an urban myth
Okay.
or, but you can Google it, kids. But I
I,
don't
I
know.
could I could understand that. I mean, I don't know if the technology existed for them to do the negative. So as in to ink the real thing and then like
Hmm.
in Photoshop, that's like 2 seconds, right? But yeah, I don't know how that happened. I know that now the color separations on comics, and this is a deep dive into the creation of comics. I know that you didn't need to have the black line to put the color inside anymore. So I know that on the Baxter paper issues, at least, you can do color and color adjacent without
Hmm.
a thing to cut out.
And
But
before Baxter paper, they couldn't do that.
or they just it wouldn't print well because the paper was a bit more poor, for want of a better word, or the stock wasn't quite good. It wouldn't hold the ink properly.
Hmm.
But these just look magnificent. These 2 pages, all these thin
Yeah.
panels. It's magnificent. And once again, if we just had a whole story of this, like, what a time to be alive. But sadly, we have to fill 80 pages, Patrick. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do
Well,
today?
one thing that we definitely should do is get the reaction of the detonation of the gene bomb from Duluth, presumably Minnesota, could be presumably Minnesota. We're both familiar for reasons that will stay mysterious with Duluth, Minnesota, but it could be Duluth, Georgia. Who knows? Who can say?
Yeah,
It doesn't really say.
but Patrick, what one was Robert Zimmerman born in? That's the one that's the important Duluth. So, that's a deep cut to a current or former Nobel Prize of Literature. Is he the current
Um,
one? Don't know.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Put all of your hate and all of our musical tips. We've just mentioned Kiss, we've mentioned Bob Dylan, and we've mentioned Lou Reed. If you just really dislike these artists, please post in the comment.
And if we want to make it really wide scale, also there was a comment in maybe the first or second issue of this series that was basically ripped straight from the pages of Animal Farm by Orwell. So I mean, we're running the gamut here. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the way to fill up the 80 pages is, yeah, patience. But also, I mean, that looks very Giffen-esque as well, actually.
it's It's
Um,
beautiful. There's a lot of like little in jokes and stuff, and as to who's tending who, and like, it's kind of I didn't realize it, but we always love getting off topic and onto Legion. Whenever they do those panorama views of the teams, all you need to look is who is standing next to who, or who is sitting next to who, or whom, I should say. And that gives you the plot points that will come down
mm,
the line as to who's getting together, who's falling apart, and so on and so forth.
yep.
Here, I don't have the in-depth knowledge of the Justice League and every single DC character in order to see
Uh-uh.
if this came to fruition, if Helena Bertinelli Huntress ever got with like whoever the person is next to her.
I
Yeah.
need my magnifying glasses, so I no, I
So
can't see.
that
But the
is
other
what
way
we,
is
yeah.
so many subplots, so many different locations. I saw Utah. We've got characters who are in excruciating pain, people whose powers are going crazy. Now, my assumption was the detonation of the gene bomb would cause these metagenes to become deactivated, and we think that that's eventually what's going to happen. We don't know if the characters are going to die, but they're in excruciating pain. Their powers are going wildly out of control, and it's either going to end with them being powerless or maybe dead. And we're actually Maxwell Lord's worried that it's going to be a PR nightmare. Lex Luthor is actually even chipping in to try to figure out how to solve the problem. And we've got a lot of sort of dangling plot lines. Superman is in space,
And
which I
not for the
think
first time on the channel will he be in space. Let's just put it that
I
way.
was gonna say when I reread my notes before this podcast, I have since read the Superman Red Glass story, and I was like, oh, okay, this is starting to make more sense now. So, but I would have assumed that probably came out quite a bit after this.
Yeah, probably 6 years after.
Wow. So maybe he was still in space. It's a long time.
He's finding himself. He's
He's
sort
probably
of,
losing bone density at this point,
yeah.
I would imagine. So yeah, we've got various exotic locations and members of the JLI and the Green Lantern Corps. They're working hard to subdue these characters that have gone haywire. They're trying to do it as gently as possible because obviously they can't help it. Um, and we learn about the forthcoming Blaster special, which I'm sure you were really excited to hear about.
I just want to hear about it from the world's forefront or foremost authority on the blasters.
It's
Um,
it is one of the many holes in my collection. I wonder honestly when I read that I was like, wonder if it ever came out. Like, could it have just
I,
not come
I
out?
I did a little bit of delving. There is one issue, and I think it's sort of like a blasters special that was already on the docket. So it wasn't, it was already produced by the time this was made, in other words. And so they
Hmm.
released that to the sound of crickets. Probably, I don't know. I think
And
I
the
made a
blasters,
joke
by the
in,
way,
yeah.
I bet Matt, please explain to the viewers who the blasters are. This is
Oh,
a little test.
so the blasters, they escaped me to be perfectly
I will
honest.
explain to you honestly. For a second, I was like, "Who are the blasters?" And then I realized the blasters are the seven humans who survived in issue one in the blast field. Right? Remember the?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just I was like, "Oh, that's who the blasters are." Yeah, I didn't
So
know either. I was just kidding.
I thought it was a riff on the Omega Men, like they weren't quite Omega anymore, so they were just,
Blasters.
yeah, no, I didn't realize that they were in a Star Blast, and so now they're the blasters.
Yeah, they were in the
Well,
They survived the blast field, so now they're the blasters. Yeah.
so I will cede my number.
Now I really am the expert.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I think that's all you need to know to be the foremost expert on the blasters. So I qualify. Those are my qualifications. Um, what do you think about, more importantly, what do you think about Guy Gardner's slouch boots?
So I like Guy Gardner, but I do love that. No, I like his outfit. I like his whole bowl
Oh,
cut. I think that it's just like looks really cool. I'm not sure, but in the recesses of my mind, I'm thinking that a lot of the Green Lantern core was made by former artists of Judge Dredd. And so I can see a lot of the boots, especially like those oversized boots are really sort of famous in that cartooning idiom. Like that was how you made someone have authority, like these massive shoes, they stood above you. So I kind of like the design. Um, the character
Per-
is
Personality.
he's meant to he's meant to elicit that emotion, and I think the writers do that to great aplomb. And I am a huge, huge fan, and I think you're a bit of a fan of the JLI, and I think it is in issue 6 or 8, maybe, where he gets put in his place by a certain non-powered
Uh-huh.
cowl-wearing individual, and that I think DC has milked that for about 30 years now, and it's still as good today as what it was then.
I love team books. I mean, that's really my focus. I've always loved them. And so I appreciate characters who go against the grain in teams.
Yeah.
I think it's important. It gives you soil to write, to plant the seeds of disagreements within the team, et cetera, et cetera. But I find him so caustic that it's almost too much for me. Like I find it almost difficult to read stories that he's in. I hate to be like that because I don't think every hero should be a hero and every hero should be Superman and a Boy Scout. Like I really think it's important to have inter-team conflict and all that. But when I was reading this, I was like, God, this character is just so tedious for me. I don't like him.
So I actually thought there was meant to be a thing where the Green Lantern ring only chooses people who are noble or
Oh, that's
whatever.
true. Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe he has a deeper backstory than what one might think, but the One Punch is definitely like right up there with how I feel about this character. Let's put it that way. Although don't get me wrong, the characterization is the One Punch thing. I think he does look cool in a silly way, which I think is cartooning shorthand. It works for Calvin and Hobbes, it works for Snoopy, it works here. Like this is a guy who you can love to hate with his beautiful haircut.
I
Uh,
was gonna say with the
yeah.
great hair, he's wearing a turtleneck. I mean, come on. What's not to love? So yeah, we're getting a lot of details. Scott Fisher is the first metahuman to succumb to the gene bomb's effects. I have no earthly idea who Scott Fisher is. I think
Um,
I missed that day in class. I don't
I,
know.
I think he's a Doom Patrolee,
Oh, oh, oh.
like the classic Doom Patrol, which is apparently very, very popular. The Silver Age Doom Patrol. There's an interstitial Doom Patrol, which we'll probably do on the channel, which has Steve Lytle, the former Legion cover artist, does the first five, and then Eric Larson, who will later go on to do Spider-Man Savage Dragon, does the rest of that run. And then Grant Morrison doesn't start till I think number 19 or so. And that is a true spin-off of this issue of Invasion. They plug that in the end. This one is also let down a little bit by all of those tie-ins, but it's less burdensome here, but it
For
still
sure.
seems to drag a bit. Although we do still get some great art, some great character moments. We get the exploration of some of the sort of alien races and how they interact on different terms when the shoe's on the other foot, so to speak.
Yeah, the panel you have here actually is one of the better ones. So once they stop with the various vignettes of powers going haywire,
Yeah,
a group of I guess it's the JLI, right?
yeah.
Who led by the Martian Manhunter here, disguised as a Dominion dominator with a gigantic disc on his forehead to make sure that no one dares to question
He
him.
he does not have
They
disc envy.
No, by any stretch of the imagination. He goes with Robot Man. Now, see, I do know things about the Doom Patrol, but I'm only really super familiar with them as guest starring in larger pieces, So that's why I feel embarrassed now that you immediately knew who Scott Fisher was. 'Cause I wrote in my notes, who's Scott Fisher? Anyway, they infiltrate the homeworld to steal the antidote to the gene bomb. They've heard that the gene bomb was created by a renegade dominator and that he may have a cure. Now, this renegade dominator thought that he would be welcomed home with the Dominion version of a ticker tape parade. I don't know what that would be exactly, like maybe chum falling
Dental,
from the
dental
sky.
floss,
What?
dental floss.
Like just it would be horrifying, I'm sure. But the Dominion's plan was actually to exploit the metahumans of Earth and to use them as leverage to fight their new war, which is against the Coons, who they've double crossed in the previous issue. So they're actually not happy with the fact that they're not going to be able to use the Earth heroes that they previously had wanted to kill. But or at least experiment on. But he's sort of wiped them out. He thought he had a view of the bigger picture and that the people at the top didn't. Now, I didn't put this together. It's not in my notes. I'm just now realizing it as we discuss these that this whole saga began with this lowly researcher, the nerd in the back room who thought he knew better than the people in charge, that he had the bigger picture and that they couldn't see it. But when in fact, he was actually the one who didn't have the bigger picture.
Bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
I was rooting for him.
yeah, no, he can't do right for doing wrong.
In the immortal words of Tyra Banks, we were all rooting for you.
Yeah,
You probably don't
yeah.
know that, but that's okay.
That's a
Um,
that's a is that a Bravo channel deep cut?
America's Next Top Model. I don't. It was on maybe CW. I don't know what it was. I don't know what channel that was originally on, but if you should Google that because it's a meme worthy. It's even the kids today know it, I think. So the
And if
kids
you're
today.
worried while we're giving all these pop culture references in this episode, it's because we are on the last barrel of this
It's
of
true.
this invasion series. I almost called it Inferno again. They're all blurring into some excessively long
I mean, I had to take performance enhancing drugs before this one. I'm just kidding. I saw you drinking coffee. I have
yeah.
not had coffee today. I'm on strictly water. So if that just shows you the dedication I have to this channel. So they've infiltrated. They really, this is a good story. It's a little bit drawn out, right? So once they get the antidote, then they have to break into the stalag where they have captured all the heroes, because that happens to be the place where they will be able to create the bomb that is going to cure the gene bomb's effects. And unfortunately, the stalag is going to be blown up by the Coons, I think.
Yeah.
So we're on a very strict, tight timeline. We've got lots of stakes, and it's good. It really is good. But we definitely are having sort of this. We got to go here to go here to go here to eventually get to the end
It's
result.
it's a dungeon quest. The infiltration part of it reads the best. It's one of the better done
Yes.
bits in this issue. I'm just highlighting this because it's part of the infiltration, as well as the Bronze Age Starman, which is a Roger Stern, Tom Lyle creation. Did you ever get into Starman?
No, but I love you. I think I have two issues, and it's because Valor is in them. So
Okay. Yep.
I think his series, did it spin off from this? Is that when it
There's a
began?
little
Maybe.
tie-in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have a couple where I still call him Monel, but where Valor was
When
like guest starring, and that's
he's
really it. But I love the costume, and I love the inverted star, like being made up of just the lines there. That's really awesome, actually.
Yeah, we're probably going to have to delve into maybe a couple of those issues, maybe the Monel issues, and maybe the one with fan favorite G Naught also appears.
Who?
G Naught, the Green Lantern who's a dog, and the Scarlet Skier.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I just didn't recognize. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know exactly who. I think I call him Gnort. I don't even.
It's
I
a
think.
I like the hard G. I like G Naught
Okay, yeah.
because
We'll
then it
have
makes
to.
him sound more gangster, like
I mean, with how you butchered Marina's name in the Avengers,
Mariana.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't even
Yeah.
matter. She's like the trench. She was named after the trench. Like I
Yes.
get it.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. But yeah, so yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I feel like I actually recently read a comic that he was in. I can't remember what it was. But man, he's really sort of he doesn't get much respect. But I guess that's the whole point.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
so we're infiltrating. I actually like the story. It's well drawn, well crafted. Some fun elements in this, but it's just a slog. This 80 pages. It's the epitome actually of tarnished bronze. Things that are on the, if you delve deep into it, it's actually quite good, but on its surface, it's almost too tedious and too of its time. You
And
know,
you know what? We never discussed this, but it's actually a unique way to talk about these things that are on the cusp, that instead of going into them, and I feel like we both kind of come at this is sort of our natural personalities, at
yeah,
least together. I feel like apart from you with other friends, maybe a different side of my personality comes out. But to see the good in these things and what makes them worthwhile instead of just ravaging them and tearing them apart. And I feel like that's really what we try to do here. And it's nice, it's refreshing. It's a little corner of positivity on an internet full of cess.
yeah. And just look at the coloring on this page, Patrick. You can't teach this stuff.
Yeah, that's great. He's
Um,
definitely brooding. This is the guy who thought he was going to get a bigger disc. I
yeah,
mean, man, it's really, honestly, it's
yeah,
very much communicated in that body
yeah,
language, right?
yeah. I mean, if we framed a story around this, the interior life of this guy, we'd have a great sort of epilogue to our story. Like what became of the world's dominating dominator? Instead, we kind of have this just bizarre Russian American sort of antagonism. Who is going to cure all these superheroes who seem to be getting sick? Do we even want to cure them? Obviously,
And
yeah,
and this artist is the guy who did the covers, right?
yeah.
Because this is a really great page. I mean, yeah, and it almost to me it doesn't even look like the same guy.
Well,
Yeah, it's great.
this is still part of that infiltration thing. It seems like there's some effort done, at least in this little sequence of events. And we're going to leave that page up because I just like it so much. And then we'll get into, I think we'll just sort of wrap it up because we all know what's going to happen. Are they just
Yeah,
going
let me
to,
ask you something first, real quick. Side
yeah.
note. One thing I'm actually a big hole in my knowledge is the Omega Men, right? So they're featured in this. And is it Tigor, maybe? He kind of looks like a
I,
Thundercat, right? He
yeah,
looks
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool. How familiar with the Omega Men are you?
I know that Keith Giffen did maybe the first 12 issues. I know that that's where the main man Bastich Lobo started
Oh, I did
in
not know
issue
that.
4. And I I'm
Okay.
I like Lobo. We'll have to maybe do one of the miniseries with the the Simon Bisley the Biz on art because he's so stupid it's great.
I
Like
only really know him from Legion,
yeah,
Legion.
yeah,
But I like Guy Gardner, right? He provides a unique, kind of different kind of characterization that can bounce off well of what the typical comic book character. So yeah, I think he definitely suits purpose. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he's got the best glutes in the business if you look at
Oh.
some of the covers that are out there. Yeah, but other than that, the Omega Man actually I think that went for like 30 or 40 issues. It's actually pretty might be Roy Thomas, maybe. I don't know. That might be wrong. I think maybe he did Infinity Incorporated, but yeah, it was kind of this it was, let's just say, a cosmic DC book. And before Invasion, they didn't know where it was going to land in the scheme of their kind of output. And so after this, all those characters kind of like got folded into Legion, or they went elsewhere, or they became blasters and never heard of again.
The blasters. I'll know how I mean, wow. Did you have a poster of the blasters on your bedroom wall?
Oh, definitely. Like I'm just distraught that I've lost my crown of Blaster fan number one.
Probably worth a lot, probably worth pennies today.
Well, I laminated
So
mine, so it's in mint condition.
what are they, you boarded it or not? What do you call it when you put it in plastic?
Oh, I'm gonna send it to CGS so it can be graded and put in a plastic shrapnel case and never, you know,
Never
never
read,
get
never
UV on it or
enjoyed,
whatever. Yeah.
perhaps sold to a tech bro. The tech bros have not even been mentioned in the last three. I mean, let's spare a thought for the tech bros. Um, the tech bros should be careful these days. Current events. I don't know when this is going to be released. Whether a kid say, if you know, you know.
Thanks, Patrick. We're now on a watch list. The tarnished
I
bronze.
have nothing to do with it. All I'm saying is we should all be careful these days.
We should all be careful and we should sell our extra copies of all of those Dr. Druid appearances that we've been mentioning on the channel to the tech bros because Dr. Druid is going to go to the moon, I believe, pretty soon. Along with these, might I mention, Todd McFarlane, Bart Sears, Keith Giffen drawn invasion issues, which I've just bought 7 of because I love them so much and I'm now going to potentially get dozens of dollars. For selling them. So thanks, Patrick, for hyping up the issues. We haven't done it. We haven't done it enough. Did I mention that Bart Sears does the covers on all of these?
To my amazement.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I always say try to get other people's children interested in comics, instead of having children of your own. That's my advice.
Is that so you can sell off some of your excess
Well, no, no,
investment?
no, no, give them to them for free. And I was
Okay,
going to say you could give them some of these, but I feel like these is a little bit maybe too dense for the
okay.
for.
So
I'm talking about young kids, right?
yeah,
Honestly, in all seriousness, I've said this to many people that maybe don't know comic books. But if I ever hear a parent that's a friend of mine, oh, my kid is, he's not interested in reading or she's not interested in reading, well, try comic books. It's a non-digital way, it keeps them in the real world a little bit more. You can learn a lot of side things like delta waves, and whatnot. And I think it can really help kids get interested in reading. Honestly, I was a really good student in school, but I didn't really love to read either. Not like other kids that were maybe good in school, but I did love to read comic books, and I think that it's a good gateway drug into learning to love to read. So.
yeah, it's a fantastic gateway drug for reading. I think, Patrick, that just leaves us a little bit of an overview of Invasion. Now, if I was 10, I would love this. I would reread it. I would reread it again. I can't get enough of that issue 1 artwork. The issue 2 artwork is a bit hit and miss, but it's pretty good. And the infiltration saga in issue 3 is great. So if I'm 10, 12, 13 years old, I'm loving this.
You get
If
tons
I'm
of
younger,
cameos.
yeah.
You get tons of cameos by a lot of different characters with a lot of different powers. So this gives you the chance to, be riding on your bike and playing pretend or making up your own stories with these characters that you wouldn't necessarily have been introduced to because it would take you so many issues to get Green Fury or, whoever. So yeah, and those are the kind of things that I would look for too.
Yeah, but it's less than what I would want uh, if I could read it. What is it? 240 pages. I'm probably going to read Watchmen. But if I want to look at 80 pages, I am going to look at those first 80 pages in that first issue because it is just so good.
It's almost more like ammunition for me, at least when I was that age, to almost create your own stories, right? Because you
Yeah,
learn who the Citadel is, you learn what the Guild Dishpan are known for, and these are the kinds of things. Like I said, it's almost like the Who's Who, which was DC's version, or the official guide to the Marvel universe, and then we're going to put sort of a very long, drawn out narrative around it while we're giving all of this sort of expository information to define our universe, to have our cosmic crisis, which I love that. I mean, you should trademark that. Les, I don't know, I'm going to give you enough credit, but that was a good one.
well,
It's definitely the DC cosmic crisis.
thank you, Patrick. You've heard it here. I was right. This is the cosmic crisis coming up. This will not be the last Keith Giffen that we ever go through, although it might be the last nail in the coffin of tarnished bronze. So check out our future episodes where we have Keith Giffen. We may have some Todd McFarlane. There's some Justice League members such as Superman that we might have a look at. And we keep mentioning this thing called Legion of Superheroes, Patrick.
Mm,
Are we ever going to do an episode on that
I mean, it's
or
coming. I will. I don't want to give too much away, but I actually haven't told you this. Just last night, I had some stress things. You know, it's the holidays are coming up. There's lots of things on everyone's plate, so I was definitely going through a little bit of that, and settled down to go to bed finally, and started the first issue of a four issue series story arc that we're doing. In the future. And so, and yes, it was like going home. And I will say that I know you're doing a reread or well, no, not a
No,
reread,
this
but
is
an
a read.
actual
It's
read.
taken me,
Right.
so full disclosure, listeners, I've been reading comics for 35 years. It took me 34 years to start reading Legion. It took me 18 months, 6 to 18 months to get the entire Legion over. That's how much I liked it. So,
And you're welcome.
yeah.
That was me. I'll take credit for that. But you had mentioned an issue recently, which was excellent. And I wanted, in full disclosure, I didn't tell you this, but when I was thinking of the story arc that I suggested, I think I was sort of a little bit conflating it with the one that you mentioned.
Mhm.
So I know that people won't know what we're talking about, but you'll see because we'll probably end up doing both. But I will say that when I was kind of like, oh yeah, you didn't remember this very well. But when I started reading the storyline that we're going to do, should I say the name?
Say the name.
It's the Universo Saga, right? That's what it's
Mhm.
called. And when I read the first issue, I was like, oh no, this was good. Okay, no, this one, because you didn't really mention it, and I know you've read past it because of where you are in your reading. So, but I was like, no, 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 no. I'm very pleased with this. I'm very happy that that was the one that I chose because, like I said, when you named the one of the ones that you really liked, I was like, oh, why didn't I recommend that one? But after I finished the first issue, I was like, no, I'm pleased with my choice. I think it's
Yeah.
good.
And to be fair, when I first mentioned it, that the Universo saga was in the future for me. So,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. So,
So you heard
but
it
yeah,
here
I'm really
first.
looking forward to that. It's Guy LaRoche is the artist. Levitz is still writing. We're getting close to what the end of what is my favorite version of the Legion, although I really like them all to varying degrees. But to me, this is like peak. I think 1986. And yeah, I was like, ooh, okay, I don't care that I have to write notes. Like, I'm really looking forward to reading the next three issues, hopefully this weekend. So,
So thanks for listening. Like, follow, subscribe. We are Tarnished Bronze, and stay tuned because Patrick will soon be on a Legion of Superheroes soapbox. So bye bye for now.